Yeah, no, the trip was amazing. It's completely different than what I thought it would be. I woke up that morning thinking that I already knew what was going to happen. We would arrive at the river and go rafting with the possibly seeing some salmon. During the rafting trip, we would have some conversation with their guides about what we see and what led to these results. I expected that they would be regular environmentalists that dislike the Yuba County Water Association or the YCWA and what they're doing. So just annoying random hippies wobbling, oh, the government, oh. After we would go out to town and have a look around and get to experience the local life. When we woke up the next day, we would go to the YCWA headquarters, sit down, and have facts and information blasted into our ears. Little did I know that this was not what was going to happen at all, that it was completely different. That morning, I stepped out of the car and waved goodbye to my mom and stood there waiting for the rest of the crew to arrive. A few moments later, the trip had already changed. After everyone arrived, we realized that Megan was sick and that the new exchange student, Daniel, would be joining us. I thought that this would be the only surprise I would get on this trip. When we arrived at the river, we immediately started to prep for the trip. It was then that I was hit by my second surprise. I realized that I did not pack a waterproof layer. When I put on the one that they supplied me, I thought to myself, okay, this is definitely going to be the last shock on the trip. However, the surprises just got bigger and bigger. After reading all the homework assignments, I thought that I knew everything that we were going to see. Maybe we'd have the possibility of seeing a androgynous fish, which is basically, they leave their spawning point and come back to spawn and they die. We did see a lot of things that we covered in the reading, but what I gained from the rafting on that river that I could never get from the readings was how much alive I felt. It was completely different from the experience reading about what was on the river to actually traveling down the river, actually seeing the ecosystem and everything that changed around it. On top of taking part of this experience down the Yuba River, I was also surprised on how much we learned from our guides. Our guides were environmentalists from a group called Circle, who basically takes care of the river, and they host these tours that we were lucky enough to take part of. I expected that I would learn from them, but what I didn't imagine was how much I would actually be taught from these people who's passionate enough to spend their lives devoting themselves in learning about the salmon and the river and everything around it. After we reached our destination, we had the opportunity to get in a circle and reflect on our experience. It was then that I realized that this trip was going to be completely different from what I thought it would be. I said that all the readings that we had were interesting, but being able to experience it firsthand was priceless, and the rafting was the only the beginning of it. Basically, what led me to this conclusion were basically our guides from Circle. They were completely different from what I thought they would be like. I thought they would be like annoying hippies and, but they were so passionate in what they were teaching. Like, I've been on plenty of tours, the factories and everything, and all the tour guides there, they would just spoon feed us, information, graphs, whatever, and it would just be completely dull facts. But these guys, when they taught us, they really spoke from their heart. Like, we could hear their stories. I felt like I was there. And that just led me to be more passionate in the subject that they were teaching. After rafting, we went to a secluded place under a bridge. It was here that I realized how unprepared I was for the trip. Juan Smith and I thought it would be a great idea to try and make it to the middle, I being chosen to take point and find a path that the two would follow. Well, this didn't turn out so great. I didn't anticipate the current being that strong, so I tripped and fell into the ice-cold water. I had all the extra clothes except for another jacket, for I didn't think that I would be dumb enough to get the one I brought wet. Thank goodness Jim had brought an extra, else I probably would have died from hypothermia. After we checked in our rooms, we went out to dinner where we had some nice Mexican food and played 20 questions, which created some hysterical inside jokes. Following dinner was probably the funniest, yet creepiest, scariest moments of my life. All that can be said about this event is, what is this? Oh, we're just high school students. Have you seen two girls that probably shouldn't be out right now? Yeah, that seems really random, but you weren't even there. Huh. We then proceeded with going to the market and picking out some food for tomorrow's lunch. And some pancake mix that coffee threw in and said, buy this for me now. We really didn't have a choice in this matter. After watching some Deal or No Deal and playing a friendly game of poker, we went to sleep. When we awoke, we were lucky enough to talk to the chairman of the Maidu tribe, Jason. As he spoke, he looked into the clouds as if he was picturing everything in his head. This gave his stories life, for I could actually see everything he said vividly in my head, something that I couldn't do from all the readings. Everything he spoke was engaging and interesting, and it might have been because he wasn't just throwing facts in my face, but rather bringing those stories to life, and telling a personal story about how those facts affected him. He spoke about how he was frustrated that he couldn't catch one of the salmon, and basically told his life story about how he did it. But when he did this, he literally looked into the clouds as if we were there, sitting right next to him, watching him act out his experience. He spoke about how he felt and when he lost his sense of culture, and how the salmon run ceremony and the salmon people, along with the ancestors, helped him gain his sense of pride for his tribe. After that, we then got to talk to the people of the YCWA, led by Kurt Akins, which was on the completely different opposite side of the spectrum from Jason and our guides from the other day. At first, it was a little tedious with all the information that they were giving us, but when they spoke about how they were involved with all of this, I started to wonder about how much do they really know about what's going on. If they're really nowhere near the source that they're affecting. But when we went to the park to eat our lunches, we started to reflect about everything that we've encountered on this trip. It was there that I realized that it's important to both have people who are passionate about what's going on and are experiencing it firsthand, as well as people sitting in offices trying to go out in the government system to make changes for those people who are very passionate about the subject and want these changes. I realized that it's very essential for them to work together and have a certain level of communication so that they can make these changes happen. On the drive back home, I really started to contemplate about how the system of dams, water, and salmon population can actually affect me, someone who doesn't live near the place at all. At the end, the trip was like nothing I expected at all, and I would definitely go on it again. You know what? That's basically it. I mean, it was the greatest experience of my life, and I would definitely do it again. And there's just so much that I learned that I didn't get from the readings, and I actually got to experience them firsthand. Let's go out and get some sushi. I'm feeling salmon.